PCD, PCD, PCDcast.
Today in PCDcast, I'm going to be speaking with Cheryl Obal about doing business in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Cheryl is originally from the US and has lived in the Kingdom for almost 5 years. She is the author of the book Culture Smart Saudi Arabia, due for release in June 2024. Last year, I had the pleasure of visiting Riyadh on a number of occasions, and we successfully brought an event to the city in November. We had a panel of esteemed sponsors from the UK, Channel Islands, Cyprus and the UAE, and over 100 guests who joined us for a panel discussion, networking reception and dinner. We'll be back in Riyadh on Tuesday 12th of November 2024. If you want to find out more about that event, email events@hnwadvisor.com. But now, sit back, relax, and hope you enjoy this conversation with Cheryl. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us today on this special edition of PCDcast. We're going to talk today about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So many of our members have shown a strong interest in working out how they can take their proposition and do business in the country. But why don't we just kick off this conversation by discussing why now is the moment, do you think, that more and more people are looking at the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, David, for having me today. And it's a pleasure to be here for the PCN members. And about your question, why is now the time? So this is basically because of a grand scheme of economic changes that have started as a result of the Vision 2030, which many of our audience members may already have heard of. And basically, the Vision 2030 came out in 2016, so it's been 8 years. We are now seeing all of the changes that are happening now, manifesting in society. Let's say in the last 5 to 6 years, we've seen sweeping changes across the country. And the way I see the Vision 2030, it's not only an economic diversification plan, but it's also a grand scheme of social changes. So the main idea behind the Vision 2030 is to basically diversify the economy away from dependence on oil revenues. And the second part of it, or the other half of it, is all of the social changes that are going on in Saudi society. So it's a very exciting time. As a result of the Vision 2030, we have multiple giga projects, as they're now popularly known. Maybe some of our audience members have heard of NEOM, the grand city. It's actually more than a city. It's an entire zone that's being built on the upper northwest side of the country. And it's slated to be the next Dubai, but it's very unique. I mean, we can't actually compare it to Dubai or any other place in the world because it has some very unique features. Now, these giga projects, NEOM, the Red Sea Project, Qiddiya, Roshan, Numarabba, there are so many of them. They all present a lot of unique opportunities to collaborate for different businesses in different countries, different consultants and experts, all across the board. All types of expertise is needed at the moment. And there's a much different climate for business activity right now, for opening a new business in the kingdom right now. There are so many incentives, there are so many support systems, and the economy is absolutely booming.
And how would you categorize the key sort of regions? So the key cities, I suppose, Riyadh, Jeddah, Dammam, many people have heard of or know of, but how would you characterize? It's a large country, isn't it? So how would you describe the impact on 2030 and how the benefits spread as well across the different parts?
Okay, well, I would say that right now, the best place to be and the place that's in the most growth and the place that is the center of everything is Riyadh, of course, the capital. That's where I live. This city now has a population of 8 million. It's supposed to grow to 15 million by 2030, which is, I mean, you can see all the changes. You can see that there are so many people coming here every single day. Thousands of people are coming from different countries, but also different regions in Saudi. Now, Jeddah is also an excellent place for, has a great business climate. It's a big city on the coast of the Red Sea, so on the other side of the country. And then, you have Mecca and Medina, which are also, big cities. Of course, non-Muslims can't go into Mecca where the Grand Mosque is, but there are so many opportunities on that side of the country, as well as the Tabuk region, which is where Neom is. Now, I don't think that development is limited only to these 4 major cities. We also have the whole eastern side of the country where Aramco was. Aramco headquarters, everything is moving to Riyadh, but you have Dammam and Al Khobar and Al Asa. You have some places on the east side that present good opportunities for investment as well. And I'm currently working for a company that is developing the tier 2 cities in Saudi Arabia to be tourist destinations. Anywhere from, let's say Taif, which many people may have heard of, which is a mountain destination in the southwest side of the country. And then there's Hayal. And then there's so many other, let's say, smaller cities that we are developing into a tourist, viable tourist site. The entire tourism ecosystem is developing. And of course, that means lots of partnerships and collaborations across different sectors, and lots of foreign direct investment as well. So they're
very interesting. When I was in Riyadh in November, I visited Diriyah Gate as a.
Yes, that's one of the giga projects.
But that was fantastic. Yes. Fantastic development with taking the historical, telling the story, integrated with restaurants and nice places to eat and spend some time. Are these kind of projects springing up across the country as there is more of a tourist demand and more openness now in the economy?
Definitely. Openness is the key word that you just mentioned, because as many of our listeners may know, the tourist visa just opened up a few years ago. It actually opened just before the pandemic in 2019, and it had many thousands of applicants on the very first day. Then they closed it for the pandemic, of course, and then they reopened it once travel became possible again. And so not only tourist visas, but business visas are very easy to obtain. And they have the visa on arrival as well, by the way. And so, yes, there are lots of areas that are developing that present lots of opportunities. And giga projects keep springing up out of nowhere. I mean, as far as I know, the last I heard, there were 18 or 19 giga projects, because they keep adding them, and so it's a good idea for any potential investors out there who want to collaborate to read up on the most recent giga projects, because those are the ones that are going to need the consultants and all of the different contributions from different experts, and also small businesses that can collaborate with them. And opening a business is one option. Collaborating with your home-based business is also another option. This is what I did for several years, because I have a company in Italy, and I collaborated with Saudi-based clients for years through my Italian company. So
you have a local investor, perhaps, or a local partner, isn't it? So you're not doing it yourself. You're coming in with someone with contacts on the ground. Is that right?
So I had, I had some contacts already, yes, because I had lived and worked here for 4 years previously. So once I opened my business based in Italy, where I live, during the pandemic, actually, I was able to collaborate because I had some contacts already with Saudi clients. Then I came back to work full time for this company.
Great. And I mean, how would you characterize someone who sees these opportunities? What's the process for, I guess, incorporating a company, having more of a set, getting visas, things like that in general? What are the brushstrokes of what people would look at?
Okay, so the way it works in Saudi, if anyone out there in the audience knows how things work in Dubai, for example, it's kind of similar in that there are agencies companies that are set up just to help people start businesses. This is the only thing they do. And they provide services full spectrum. So, for example, let's say you're thinking about opening a business here and you think that you should do some market research. They can help you do some market research. Or you need to find a local partner, like you don't have any contacts yet in Saudi. No problem. They can introduce you to people in the sector that you want to potentially open a business in. And they provide all the services from A to Z, like starting with your business registration, your license with the Ministry of Investment, your visas, your resident permit. They can process everything for you and your staff and whoever you want to bring with you. Alternatively, if you're not ready yet or you want to test out the market, you can come here as a business visitor for a period of time, or you can send someone from your company who can spend 6 months, 1 year, and have a look around, develop contacts, check out the market, and then you can open your business later. So that's an option. Or you can do, as I mentioned earlier, and operate here through a foreign-based business. But that can only go so far. I experienced that, and I would highly suggest that, if you're serious about it, come here, open a branch of your business, and enter the market properly. Because also there's some rules about doing business with foreign companies now, because they're trying to attract everyone to come in and open their business and operate from here. So they've offered a lot of incentives, but also penalties for those who are still working outside the country. So to give you one example, I have, I do training, cross-cultural training and other types of communication training and professional skill training. For anyone who's providing that particular service from a company based abroad, there is an automatic 15% tax added to any payment that is sent to me outside the country. Okay, so that's just one example. I'm sure there are lots of other examples. Maybe you've also heard of the Regional Headquarters Program. And that program has mandated that any multinationals that are operating in the region need to relocate their headquarters to Riyadh. Otherwise, they cannot have any more contracts with the Saudi government. They can do private, corporate contracts, but they can't collaborate with the Saudi government anymore as of January 1st of this year.
Is this how then you're seeing also the population of, say, Riyadh expand? You noted the numbers earlier. It's a mixture of Saudi Arabian, the local population, as well as an expat population coming in to relocate. Do you notice
Yes.
that as you live there, more expats actually coming and basing themselves alongside, in line with these trends?
Absolutely. So what we're seeing is a mass migration, both internally and from expats. So I'm seeing a lot of people from different areas of Saudi now working in Riyadh, because Riyadh is the best place to earn money, the best place to find different job opportunities, and it's the center of all the action. Being here is extremely exciting because you see everything changing right before your eyes. The youth, like the young population, are extremely excited about it. There was a time when Saudis used to look for every opportunity to go abroad, live abroad, and stay there. This was a trend years ago. Some of my Saudi friends told me, Cheryl, 20 years ago, we couldn't wait to just, for any opportunity to get out of here, to travel abroad. It was so boring. There weren't enough opportunities. There weren't entertainment options either. Now everything has changed, where Saudis that used to live abroad are coming back to serve their country and be part of the action and have the opportunities. And this is exactly what they've been waiting for so many years. Is this kind of development and this kind of transformation. And now that it's happening, you see Saudis excited about living here and no longer trying to escape.
The leisure sector's really taking off, isn't it? And I noticed that when I was on the ground there a couple of times last year.
Absolutely. The leisure and entertainment options are just out of this world nowadays. I mean, you haven't seen this even, let's say, 7 to 8 years ago. You didn't see so many options. There was a time in Saudi history, not too long back, where there were no possibilities for people to gather in public. Nowadays, you see every type of open public event, from fairs to music concerts. I mean, we have the Middle Beast, which is like this grand music festival that takes place over a whole weekend. You see artistic events. You see famous international stars coming to hold their concerts. You see conventions of all different sorts. You see business gatherings. I mean, literally, the society has just thrown away all of those laws that used to be there about no mingling in public between male and female, that kind of thing. It doesn't exist anymore. I mean, you see men working side by side with women, no problem. I mean, of course, there still is that invisible barrier that you shouldn't cross. But let's say that there's a lot less distance between people than there used to be.
And so just touching on that, then the culture of business. I mean, most of my members coming in from Europe, say, are fascinated by Saudi Arabia and how they should be, I suppose this pace of change is impacting on how they might interact with clients and businesses on the ground. Can you give us a sense of how that's changing in business culture?
Definitely. I mean, there was a time when people were very worried and concerned about how to behave when coming to Saudi. And definitely you should always inform yourself and research the local culture wherever you're going to go and try and do business. Definitely. And there still is the need to understand the local customs so that you can be respectful. But I think what people don't really realize is that Saudis are so extremely flexible and tolerant. And they're so easy to work with. They're extremely easygoing, and they love expats. And they have experience with expats, I mean, throughout history. Ever since, I mean, think about all the migration that happened because of the pilgrimage, the Hajj and Umrah. A lot of people came from outside the country and settled here. A lot of Saudis grow up with a nanny from a different country like the Philippines or Malaysia or somewhere in Africa. So they've grown up speaking English with their nanny or their maid. And then they've always had certain, people that work in service-related positions that came from all over the world. I mean, from India, Pakistan, the Philippines again. So, they've had a lot of exposure to foreign people, and they don't have any trouble, relating to them. And people usually come here and they figure out in a couple of minutes that it's so easy to talk to Saudis, and we don't have to be on our toes or walking on eggshells as much as people may have thought, because in the end, it's all about relationships. And if you relax and show a bit of your personality and you try to develop a relationship, this is what's going to go further than trying to show your skill. Of course, you have to be good at what you do, and you have to, in a way, justify and prove your skills. But what's gonna get you further than that is your relationship building and developing the trust among Saudis. So, yeah, it does take time. I'll be honest.
I certainly had a really warm welcome when I made my multiple trips last year, and I guess there's an interesting point around the culture of in meetings and arranging meetings. When I arrived in Riyadh, I had a list of WhatsApp numbers. People had told me, message me when you arrive, rather than do a more European thing of sending an Outlook invite weeks in advance.
Yes.
But people gave me a great amount of time and a really warm welcome. You can perhaps tell us a little bit about what the expectation should be of people coming in from abroad on meetings and scheduling and things like that.
Yes, this is a very good question. I'm glad to hear that you also had the warm welcome. And this is like 99.9% of the experiences I hear about, and my personal experience as well. I mean, I have never, I mean, I was, to be honest, when I first came here in 2016, I was terrified. I didn't know what to expect, as many people are. And you realize within a couple of days that you have nothing to worry about. There's no reason to fear anything. There's no reason to worry about being a woman doing business here. And yes, communication is best done through WhatsApp. This is what everybody uses. And you're absolutely right about sending, invitations, Zoom meetings. Yes, during the pandemic, that was the way that they were doing everything, because that was the only choice to meet people. But nowadays, I mean, WhatsApp is the way, and it's instant, it's personal. You reach people better. A lot of times sending emails doesn't really work. You might not get a reply. So Saudis are a highly relationship-based society and a very highly verbal culture as well. So it's really important to try and communicate with them in ways that are more personal. So if you're not getting a reply by email, pick up the phone or find out their WhatsApp number, text them. Even voice notes work quite well, because WhatsApp calls don't work here. The Saudi government has blocked WhatsApp calls. So, but no problem. You can leave voice notes or written messages, and that's the best way to reach people and to set up meetings. Also, yes, they're very spontaneous culture. So what you mentioned about, just message me when you arrive. This is how it's done. I mean, you may think, oh, I should plan it. I have a business trip. I'm blocking my calendar for all these business meetings. Good. I mean, you can try and set up meetings, but what I found is that the best way is to do this just before meeting them, because anything can change. So, when you arrive, it's always better to you can have a tentative schedule to meet them, but don't be surprised if it changes, and try to be extremely flexible. They are very flexible. You might find frequent changes. Don't get annoyed. It happens. It happens more frequently than in other places, but that's just the way it is here. And it's part of the fun, to be honest. There's no day that's
Absolutely.
the same as another.
And also, I think it's blocking out enough time. So, if you're coming to Riyadh, make sure you're coming for a few days. If you come just overnight, for example, it might the response I was getting from local professionals. Fortunately, I didn't have to make any fly in, fly out short trips like that. I had a few days every time, but I got the sense from them that almost if you're coming just really rapidly, it's not going to work because of these cultural norms around meeting, but also it's almost like a bit of lack of respect in a sense of you've got to be prepared to come fly in for a good length of time so that there's opportunity to actually meet in a relaxed way rather than, a way we might do in Europe where we drop in for a packed day and get out that night or the following morning or something like that. So I found that quite different.
Yes, this is a very good point, and you're absolutely right. I mean, sometimes I see people coming in for 2 days, and I'm like, why are you staying only 2 days?
Yeah.
Please, next time, come here and spend at least a week, because it's difficult to get a feel for the country and the culture by just spending a couple of days. And then logistically, as you mentioned, you need to allow more time to meet people. And another thing, just because of the sheer magnitude of this city, like if you're coming to Riyadh, I mean, I think you were in Riyadh last time. You know how crowded it is. You know how big it is. You know how it can take an hour to go from one part of the city to another. You know that you can get stuck in traffic at any given time. So this is, this can be very tiring. And sometimes meetings get canceled just because someone's stuck in traffic. It happened to me the other night. I was supposed to meet one of my colleague or contacts from the UK that came to visit, and she was here again only for 2 days, and we were supposed to meet 2 nights ago, but I was at a conference. I was at the HCI, the Human Capability Initiative, giant event, and then the logistics of getting out of there and meeting her at her hotel, it was just a complete nightmare. I couldn't make it, and this is what happens sometimes. That's why you need to plan for more time, definitely.
And it's a Sunday to Thursday working week, and obviously also in
Yes.
terms of times of year, you've got Ramadan, you've got different
Yes.
points of the year where you would or wouldn't visit. How do you kind of help people work out perhaps when a good time to come is if they're exploring the country?
Another very good question. Yes, every country has their periods, their ups and downs, and their waves and their timings. So yes, as you know, I think Ramadan is about to start in a week or so. The 30 days of fasting. After that, you have a week of holiday. After the 30 days, you have Eid, and then you have about a 2-month gap, and then you have another Eid. Okay, so in this 2 months gap, even though this is like it's going to be high time in Europe and North America and other places in the world, it's going to be downtime for Saudi. So between the two Eids, let's say, is the downtime, and it's the time where people shouldn't expect too much to happen. I would definitely come after the end of the second Eid. The second Eid should be in June, I think June 17th to 24th or something. After that, and Eid is not that whole period, but I'm talking about the vacation. Eid is like 2 or 3 days each time, but it's normally a whole week that Saudis take off. That's why I'm saying 17th to 24th. Anyway, after that would be the time that things will start to pick up, and that will be kind of the start of their new year, let's say. Even though for us it'll be midsummer and people will be thinking about their vacations. And another factor to consider, David, is the weather. Because, it just so happens that this year Ramadan and Eid fall, in April and then in June. But, end of June, July, if you think about it, that technically is the new start for them. But it's going to be the hottest time in Riyadh. So that is going to also put a damper on business, and people generally don't like to go out. They get very tired. It's just very tiring to be running around in this hot weather. So I wouldn't actually suggest June, July, August either. I would say that the best time is September, October, November, December, January, February, I would say. I mean, and keep in mind that this is not for like the next 10 years or something. I mean, keep it for like the next couple of years, because Ramadan shifts 2.5 weeks it shifts earlier every year. So, I'm talking about this year. Your best time is going to be from September to Feb, because then next year, September to the end of Jan, because next year Ramadan will probably start in end of Feb, mid to end of Feb. So you see what I mean? Yes, you have to always keep in mind the holidays and the weather.
Check the calendars. I mean, we come to Dubai and to Saudi every November now, and we find the weather in November is very, very pleasant. It's a great time to be there, and it fits the business window very well.
Exactly.
But you mentioned earlier concerns perhaps for women visiting the country, doing business. It's certainly something that the first-time visitors that have worked with us have thought about and considered. What's your advice for women coming to do business meetings in Riyadh or the Kingdom generally?
To be honest, I have never once felt discriminated against or treated differently because of being a woman. Honestly, I have never had any problems. And I think that Saudis nowadays, they know that women have a lot to offer. They don't have any problem meeting with you. There's still that, like what I mentioned earlier, as the kind of invisible barrier between women and men. So it's a very simple rule. Like, for example, when it comes to business greetings, if you're a woman, you shouldn't offer your hand to a Saudi man unless he offers his hand to you first. That's how you know it's possible and it's acceptable. There still are some Saudis that don't have any physical contact with women, no touching at all, no hand on the shoulder, no pat on the back, no fist bump. So there still are some that don't want any physical contact, and you never know who it's going to be. And I'll tell you what, nowadays, I would say about 80 to 85% of men do shake hands with a woman, especially as a foreigner. It's, I guess, kind of safer, and they know that this is what we do in our culture, so they want to adjust to us as well. And so they most often do offer to shake your hand. Like this company that I joined recently, they do, it's mostly men. It's, I think, maybe 70% men, 30% women, if I'm not mistaken. But every single man, everybody offered their hand to me when I joined the company. And I was a bit surprised. I wasn't sure how that was going to go, because I know in the past it was about half and half. It was about 50-50. Some offered their hand, some did not. This time, every man shook my hand and gave me a wonderful, warm welcome. And, the key is to just be yourself, and, also just not talk about certain things that may offend their cultural norms. And, it's a good idea to get to know people on a personal level also, and show a bit of who you are, and your personality outside of, the work that you want to do with them. This is how you're going to build bridges. But just be careful about going into topics where, it's not acceptable in their culture. Like, you don't want to talk about partying or boyfriends back home, or, what I mean, right? These things that may not be appropriate. But follow the cues, yes. And generally speaking, Saudis don't talk about their wives. This is like part of the private domain. But if they start talking about their wife, then it's okay for you to engage and talk about their wife with them if you're dealing with a Saudi man. Nowadays, you're going to find a lot of Saudi women in very powerful positions. You're going to find them being promoted and doing a great job. They're highly educated. They got their PhDs, and they're quickly moving up the ladder. So you're going to find women represented more and more, both on the Saudi side and the expat side.
Fantastic. And finally, Cheryl, what do you think makes Saudi Arabia so special as a place to live? You've lived in many parts of the world, seen many different cultures. What is it that appeals to you about being based in the kingdom?
This is a question that people frequently ask me, and I'm always happy to answer this question. So first of all, what I normally do is I turn the question back to people and I say, well, what makes you love a place? If you travel somewhere and you love it, is it like the physical characteristics, the historical value, the things that you see, the food you eat? No, it's the people and the experiences that you have with them that make you love a place and make a place stick in your heart, like Saudi has done for me. So definitely, as you mentioned earlier, the warm welcome is there, and it extends far beyond that. I mean, the more time you spend here, the more that you see how, it's absolutely unlimited generosity and warmth and love that they have for other people, and the concern and the care that they give people is just outstanding. It's out of this world. And I know we have a short time, so I don't want to tell too many stories, but I have many, many, many personal stories and experiences that illustrate that, the people here are extremely unique, and you're going to have a very pleasant experience working, because they're not competitive like they are in other places. They are very collaborative. I have a wonderful team I'm working with. Actually, the whole company it's just an amazing group of people. I feel very grateful. And they're mostly Saudi. There's just a handful of expats. And besides let's say the personal touch and the human connections you can have here, the other dimension of my excitement about being here has to do with the fact that this country is developing so quickly right before your eyes. I have never seen a country put in place all of these plans like they have here and actually execute them in such a short period of time. And this is exciting. So if you're a person that wants to develop something, you want to develop your skills, this is the place to do it. I mean, you want to experiment in a market that's growing like extremely quickly, and it has a need for all different kinds of skills and talents. This is the place. This is the place you can do it. This is the place you can grow, where you can be appreciated for your unique talents, and you can also try new things, because it's a place that's hungry for lots of, contributions from people and from different places. So this is exciting. I mean, seeing all this expansion, all this development, all this change, and seeing it happen so quickly, and just also being a part of the excitement that you feel. It's something you feel. People are they, it's like they've been reborn. They've been reawakened by all these opportunities, and it's just really cool to be a part of it. I have to say, I've never seen this in any place I've been in the world.
Fantastic. Well, Cheryl, so good to talk to you today. I look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully later in the year in Riyadh, and collaborating further to bring some insight to our community of professionals who are committed to doing more business in the kingdom. Thank you very much for talking to me.
It's been a pleasure, David. Thank you for inviting me. I'm always happy to talk about Saudi, and I also look forward to the opportunity to meet you soon in person. Inshallah, as they say.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. For those interested in finding out more about doing business in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Cheryl and I will co-host an online course with a deep dive on a number of the essential topics, including the current business landscape, sectors in development, and opportunities for investment. We'll discuss how to open a company in Saudi, the timeframes and costs. We'll brainstorm on developing a market entry strategy and positioning yourself for success. The course will also provide important insight on the Saudi consumer mentality and how to localize or tailor your product and service for the market. We will discuss communication channels, the best way to build trust and relationships, and to undertake your networking in the region. Finally, we'll cover how to make proposals, win business, and tips for negotiation with potential new Saudi clients. If you'd like to find out more information about this course, please email events@hnwadvisor.com. Thanks for tuning in today, and hope to see you next time on PCDcast.